we pass the test? Okay.
You gotta say something.
You don't know how I'm feeling.
And I'm just asking questions.
Interrogation.
No, it's
First
not.
48.
Hello, people. This is our probably fifth or sixth time trying to start our inaugural. This is the very first podcast episode of We Almost Have It All Together. My name is Tiffany Hinkle, and this is my co-host and husband,
Charlie Hinkle.
And we are here today to bring you this podcast. This is something we just decided to do. So, babe, why don't you describe what the mission of this podcast is?
The mission of our podcast is just to share our 18 years of experience of being together / married, having teenage daughters, going through life and being together since high school, being high school sweethearts. Just kind of sharing our story, our path. Everyone has a different path to marriage and then just walks of life in general. So we kind of just want to share that with like-minded people, kind of help people out and kind of hear your stories and go from there.
Yeah, even though we've been together a long time, we still have a lot to learn. And so we just hope that our discussions and topics, we want to talk about relationships, family, and faith. We hope that that is a blessing to you all. You all can help us on our journey as well as we talk about some things in the comments. And I'll just say that if you all get anything positive out of this discussion today, please make sure to share the podcast or the YouTube video with a friend. Just share it. That's all that we ask. That's free. Sharing is free. So it is February. And to kick off our podcast, instead of talking about love, we thought we would talk about
anger.
Yes, we want to talk about anger. And we decided to talk about anger as our first podcast episode probably 2 weeks ago. And this past week, we really got tested when it comes to anger because we both got very angry with each other this past week. So it definitely set this podcast up right. So with that said, let's get into our first topic, which is more like a question. So when was the last time you let anger get the best of you?
That's gonna be a while. It'd be quite some time because it got cobwebs on. I can't even remember the last time.
Well, I just said that we both got last week.
Okay, yeah, I admit it. It was last week. All right, it ain't got cobwebs on it. Got like a new polished shine. Now you said we was tested. Did we pass the test? You think?
TBD. To be determined. You'll have to listen to the end of the podcast to see if we pass it.
I got angry this week. Before I give what led up to being angry, I just say yes. I got angry. It was kind of over food, but not really over food. And I did my NASCAR driving that I do whenever, not all the time. I haven't done it in a while, but kind of utilize my twin turbos a little bit. And my wife does not like that when I do that. So
yes,
I'll
and
let her tell her side. And
in response to the NASCAR driving, which I hate. Not that nobody was in danger or anything like that. It's like going from 1 mile to 5 miles an hour, but still, it's just because I knew you were frustrated. That just made me mad, and I knew. It just made me mad. I just hate it.
Thought I was doing it in spite of.
Yes, I thought you were doing it out of spite. And that really ticked me off. And I got extremely upset, extremely mad. I started yelling. Our poor girls in the back were probably just like, what is going on? But yeah, I got very upset as a response to you being very upset. And yeah, I know I let my anger get the best of me. And yeah, I probably should not have done that. So what could you have done in that moment to better control the anger that you felt with the dinner situation?
I think it starts off with being honest and upfront, kind of searching out why are you feeling that way. I kind of was antsy from the time I landed, so I had to go out of town. Monday, Tuesday, my daughter had a game at 6 o'clock, but we were going. It was 6 or 7. JV or varsity girls were like around 6, and then the boys were like at 7. And we typically only catch a portion of the girls' game if it's not at home, just because we're normally getting off work and kind of wrapping up things before we go to the games and stuff. And I had a flight, got in. Took me 40 minutes to find my car because the Atlanta airport is crazy right now.
Yeah.
Had Apple drop on it and everything, or pin drop on it. I pinned the location, and GPS was not working inside the freaking deck. So that took me 40 minutes. Then by the time I did get on the road, instead of getting home in like 35, 45 minutes, I had caught the traffic, and they had some road work and stuff going on anyway. So it was like hour and 15 minutes, get home. And then we have to drive 35 to 45 minutes back out to another part of town where the game was being played at. And obviously we got to drive back to get home. So I was kind of frustrated from that whole ordeal of being in traffic and then having to still do things that night. And I should just been honest with that. Maybe not even going to the game, but I hate to not go to the game. But I should have like just spoke what my mental state was or what my frustration was before it got to that point, because you've gone to games and we met up for dinner, and maybe that would have been the best thing. Like, hey, me stay here, y'all go to the game, then we meet up at dinner, and then it could be more solidified. Or I think like we got to it later on, you were like, hey, if you really wanted to eat and we had already decided on eating something, we've always dropped the girls off and gone to eat if we really wanted to. So I think that's where mine was.
Yeah, and I guess from my perspective, I could have better controlled the anger. Is I guess I did not pick up how frustrated. Like I knew what had happened. I knew that you had been in traffic, but I did not catch that was making you upset. Because matter of fact, because you got upset with me for trying to tell you about like the bag policy or something like that. So I should have known that you were already like frustrated. Maybe I should have known, but maybe if I was more in tune to the situation, I don't know. But I guess I could not have overreacted. Like I could have not reacted to your frustration, and that probably would have made the situation a little bit better and not caused both of us to get so upset. But that actually brings up a good point, and kind of the next thing we can talk about is what exactly is anger. And why do we get angry in the first place? Like, why do you get mad? I know the dictionary describes anger as a strong feeling of displeasure. So that's kind of the technical definition. But what would you describe? Like, how would you describe anger? What do you think anger is?
I think anger is just a pile of emotions that are happening at one time that just comes out in a way because your body's trying to protect itself. And the emotion comes out as anger. Anger is can be a good thing because it allows us to know when we're in an uncomfortable position, and it makes us search out our feelings, right? That's the time we need to lean on God and ask God, like, why am I mad, right? And kind of dig in deep and kind of sit and soak with God on the why, so he can kind of measure your heart, measure your thoughts, and kind of clear it out. Could be something deep in your subconscious, could be just like me, like been a disabled veteran and stuff, do deal with a lot of pain management. So like being stuck in traffic and being driving, it's like annoying when your body's freezing up and aching. It can add to the agitation. So
right,
kind of like when I was talking about the bag policy, I'm like, I'm not going to prematurely go back because I just walked up here, just got out of traffic. I'm stiff right now. Not trying to walk back to my car for a bag policy I don't see a sign for. Let them tell me. It's kind of like my mindset at that time.
Yeah, I understand that. But like
using my words, I gotta. Yeah,
you gotta
communicate.
you gotta say something.
You don't know how I'm feeling. You ain't
say something.
Look at the smile chart. Tell me where your pain level is. Is it over here by this frown?
Yeah, you gotta say something. So I mean, I agree with that. It's basically, you're right. It's an emotion. You said something. You said it's your body trying to protect you from something, and your body was trying to protect you from the stiffness, the pain. So you were getting annoyed. you're probably hungry, hadn't eaten, because we decided instead of getting food before the game, we were like, okay, well, we can get food after. And then even though I did come home and cook, but I get it. At the time, it's just like, I want the food, and it's just a lot of things just kind of building up on top of each other. And it just brings me to another story or example of emotions and the angers. I don't know if you want to go into the time where you went and met your dad's side of the family and how I got upset at the time. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I can kind of dive in that. So backstory, obviously we've been together for 18 years, but for me, my journey with my father took a 34-year process. So let's start there. So 34 years. I'm now 37, so that was 3 years ago. I lost my brother. I didn't find out knew about my siblings, but I really didn't connect with them until I was 23, and that was just due to another one of my siblings using social media, Facebook at the time, finding the folks on my dad's side, and kind of linking us up. Brother and sister came out to see me, 2011. Yeah, 2011, and then from there we kind of it's a strange relationship, right? You 23 years old, you just meet some people, so it wasn't like I was calling them every day. That's not something I do anyway like that. So definitely for them, it was even more distance or kind of that estranged relationship. And then they would tell me things about my dad, or like, say my dad asked about me, but he wouldn't call. They give him my number, but he wouldn't call. I never got his number until my brother passed away 3 years ago. And was going through this series within my church. We were doing this kind of men's small group. And the whole thing was about forgiveness. And we were learning that you may have to step in the presence of some people you haven't stepped into a while or ever, and physically forgive them, right? So,
and I wasn't there, obviously, because it was like a men's discussion. But I remember when he told me that he wanted to go visit, and like, yes, go to the funeral. However, like, I was like, I know that you can get a temper sometimes. I don't know how you're going to react. At the time, me and the girls were not planning to go. Number one, you have not really forged a relationship. It just didn't seem appropriate for us to attend. But I was dead set against you going. And I think, I haven't learned about this anger and just talking about this as we're prepping for this.
Yeah, it was definitely protection.
It was protection. Right? Yeah.
Everything was protection for me.
Yeah, protecting your emotions. So even though it came out as me being angry at you for not going, it was just me just protecting your heart and your peace, basically. I was trying to protect your peace because we didn't know how that situation was going to turn up. You know what I mean? It was basically blind faith, and kudos to you and your leadership for realizing I was 100% wrong and you were right. And that was the right thing to do. But at the time, I got upset because I was protecting you and just very worried about how you were going to be received. You know what I mean? Because it was just so much unknown. But
yeah. So I can kind of elaborate on that a little bit more, dive a little bit deeper. So for context, this was a protection matter, but my wife was sitting there, not only saying, I know you don't have a relationship with your dad, but like just slapping the face to your mother pretty much, right? That was her angle as well. I remember we was talking deep about like what my mother had done for us, how she suffered at the end. My mother passed 3 years prior to my brother passing, so 2018. She passed. I didn't get a call from my dad. Didn't really get anything from that side of the family until like maybe 2 years later. And that was just only from my siblings, right? Still no acknowledgement from my dad. So there was a lot of emotions. My first conversation was a call beforehand, me going there. And it was like, he knew exactly who I was when I called. He had my number saved in his phone. Obviously, I called and gave him condolences, prayed for him. There was no, where have you been? There was no time for that, right? You're going through sorrow and grief. So my main thing was comforting him. He just lost a son, right? I lost a estranged brother, but he lost someone that's a junior, right? So obviously, there's not that one kid's over another kid, but he actually had years spent with him. My brother was in hospice in my father's care, so there was a lot to that, right? So um, we got our scars we got to heal up on, but it's still not that type of relationship where I'm angry about nothing or I'm going after. I think it's even got to the point like we did Thanksgiving because of you. So like your relationship with him and the kids' relationships are good. Like we went to Thanksgiving because you suggested that.
Yeah.
So we went to see him this Thanksgiving, and then from there, that was my daughter's first time seeing their grandfather. I got a great grandma, or I have a grandma. They have a great grandma. That's 95, 97, 97.
Yeah.
So
That's a good trip.
yeah, so that she's, everyone has a good relationship from that. My daughter just helped himself his phone. I just shipped it off, so the relationship is good. But that's a good point of like your body reacting, or like even when you look at like the emotions of the people that are close by you. Like you cannot have emotion, they can have emotion for you, and you had the anger that I not necessarily that I should have, but you were passionate.
Yeah, I was very passionate
protective.
about it. Yeah. But I mean that is a good point, and I think it's important for all of us to remember that anger is an emotion given to us by God, right? It's not a bad emotion to have. It's a perfectly fine emotion. Jesus got angry.
Yeah, flip the table.
He flipped the table over. So I mean, it's a fine emotion, and everybody's gonna feel anger at some times. And I know that there's a passage, Mark 8:31 through 33, and this is where Jesus is talking with Peter, and he's telling Peter about his upcoming death. When and his crucifixion. So, do you want to explain kind of what's going on in this passage in Mark 8?
He's talked to the disciples, and he let them know that he's pretty much about to be judged. That priests and elders are not gonna really ride with him anymore, or ride for what he's been talking about. That he's gonna be tortured, he's gonna be put to death, but he's gonna rise again. Immediately, David comes out in displeasure and disbelief, and he's
Peter?
upset. Yeah, who did I say?
You said David.
Who
Peter.
was it?
You said David.
David. Peter. Peter comes out. I was thinking about the son of David. Search my heart, search my thoughts. But anyway, so Peter's angry. He gets upset, and he comes at the Messiah like he's some kind of chump or something like that. And so Messiah comes back, not using his God power, but just by saying, "Hey, get thee behind me, Satan." So you got to think about their relationship. It's very close, right? They're like best friends, very close friends, and I just pretty much called you evil and told you to step aside, get back behind me. So I think Peter was suffering from obviously disbelief, already starting to go through grief, because like it's one of those senses that if if somebody tell you you're gonna die or they're gonna die, or someone ever suffered through cancer or hospice, anything like that, like the grief start as soon as you find that out. Like it doesn't start when they pass away. So like he's starting to grieve early, and that he don't understand how to grieve. So one of his emotions was anger in the debate.
Yeah, sorry y'all. If y'all hear that, our dog is like whining in the background. You need to get Rihanna to come get him. But yes, so you're right. Like Jesus and Peter, they had a special relationship, and it's kind of like you were describing it when you were teaching this lesson to the teens last week, where it's like, imagine if your best friend came to you and said that they're about to die, and how would you react? You would probably get pretty angry, and so it's kind of a good analogy of what to think about when you're thinking about how Peter was feeling, but then how Jesus was feeling. It was like, hey, you're trying to prevent me from doing what I know I need to do. Not trying to prevent me, but you're just causing this rift right now. And it doesn't matter what you think. This is what's going to happen. And it is what it is. And there's nothing you can do about it. I got to go about my Father's business. So there is a scripture where we talk about how anger, is fun, but we got to make sure that we're not sinning. And it is Ephesians 4:26, and it says, "And don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry." And that's from the New Living Translation. What do you get from this Ephesians verse when you hear don't sin by letting anger control you? What do you get from this particular passage or scripture?
I go back to David and how he wrote, kind of guard your heart and asking God to kind of measure him, right? Search my heart, search my thoughts, show me where I'm wrong. And so it's like asking God to help you with that anger before it gets to sin, right? It's the same thing like dying to your flesh every day. That's what dying to sin is, or trying not to commit sin. It's like stepping in, having God fill that gap, laying that burden down on him, searching your emotional intelligence and finding out why you have those emotions, which I lack it. But yeah, ask God why.
How do you think, okay, in the second part, it talks about like not letting the sun go down on your sin. So how do you think we did this past week when we were upset with each other with not letting the sun go down, or basically not going to bed mad? Because you always hear that, especially in like marriage counseling, you go to marriage classes, they say don't go to bed mad. But practically, how do you think we did this past week, and overall, how do you think we do with that?
I think we do pretty good. I think there was only like maybe 2 major issues we've had over our 18-year marriage, that one of us has slept somewhere else.
Meaning like on the couch?
On the couch or something,
like
yeah.
that?
But that's like very early on. That's something that we are totally against now. Didn't happen this week. Hasn't happened in like a decade. It's just something that we don't do.
And I'm going to be honest, I thought about it. Like when I was upset this past week, I thought about it. So we have a guest room and I have like a little office in there. And I was like this close. If you're listening, I'm making like this little motion with my hands. But I was super close. But then like I just felt that in my spirit, like, nah, I can't do that. I got to go to bed. So, yeah, I think you're right. We do a good job.
The warmth of the bear.
Whatever. If you're a Big Brother fan, you might catch that reference. But, yeah, so I came on, and it's funny. So, yeah, I got in the bed, and I didn't do the petty thing and, like, get all the way over to the
put a pillow right in a smack dab,
which I usually do. So this is
a fort.
Yeah, I usually make a fort, but this goes to show that I've grown and developed because I didn't do that. We even cuddled, and I think because at the end of the day, I knew deep down that what we were arguing about wasn't like it was petty. It was petty. It was stupid. Like it was no need. Value. Yeah, it had no need to get that upset. It was like no need to get that angry and be that mad over it. So, but I also think like I have a hard time hanging on to anger just because it's emotionally draining, which being mad is tiring. And I just didn't have the energy to be mad that long. So I think we do pretty good at that. Now, what we need to work on is our communication styles and coping with the anger and actually like addressing the issues so that we can like move past it. Because I know I'm the type of person where I like to address things in the moment and talk about it. And we started to try to talk about it, and I'm just asking questions.
Interrogation?
No, it's
first 48, or in this case, the first 30 minutes.
No, it's not an interrogation from my perspective. I get from your perspective, you thinking it's interrogation. Yeah. From my perspective, I'm just really trying to understand what went wrong so that I can maybe fix it, but at least understand so that I know how to better address it going forward. Whereas you are the one who's just kind of like, I don't want to talk about it. Well, you're like avoiding it. Like you don't want to talk about it, and it just comes across to me as you're blowing me off.
I'm not one that would be a politician or run for politics because I hate debates. And I know having an argument or having a discussion with your wife shouldn't be a debate, but sometimes it feels like someone's trying to win when it shouldn't come off that way. For me, it's not that I don't want to talk about it. I think it's three-parted. There's the me saying, hey, let's pause. Let's table the conversation, but actually saying that, not coming off like, hey, I don't want to talk about this right now. It's setting the time. So either I'm setting the time, you're setting the time, or, you know, there's your time, my time, and then agreed upon time. And then, you know, whatever that agreed upon time, untabling it, come back and talk when cooler heads prevail. We got thoughts. I don't know. Like, you always be like, I ain't gonna let you come up with an alibi. Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. Did you just ask me the same thing 3 times, 3 different ways?
If I did, it's because you didn't really answer the question, or I don't feel like you thoroughly answered the question, or I don't understand your answer, and I'm just trying to ask further clarifying questions. So I can see how it can be, how my questions can be a lot, but I'm literally, from my perspective, I'm just trying to understand. And how can I understand something if I'm not getting your point of view and fully understanding your point of view? And the way I best understand is just to ask clarifying questions. But I can understand how all the questions can be a lot. But yeah, I mean, I get it, but I gotta ask some questions. I can't ask anything.
It's like, did you catch a frog? Yeah, I caught a frog. What color was the frog? Frog was green.
Well, I need to know if it was green or if it was red.
How many frogs did you catch? I just said I caught a frog. What are you talking about? How many frogs I caught? I caught a frog.
Whatever. I mean, maybe sometimes.
Sometimes, not all the time.
Not all the time. Sometimes, yes, I can be a lot. But sometimes it's just me genuinely trying to make sure I understand. Because a lot of times I'm still trying to understand, you know, what happened and what caused it to escalate.
Yeah, you're very analytical.
That's what
you want to get down into the macro.
Yeah, I want to get to I want to know, because to me, I know the issue was not the dinner. I knew it was an underlying issue. And had I known all the other stuff, like, you literally could have told me I was tired. Remember, I had a long trip and I was in traffic and I'm hurting. Like, none of that was, I didn't know any of that until we started talking about it on the podcast today. So that's why I'm like, it's important. That's the kind of things that I'm looking for when I'm asking the questions. It's just clarity, because then I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand. It's not, because I know it's not about the dinner, and I know it's not about these little things. I know it's something deeper, and I'm just trying to figure out what that deeper reason is. Yeah. So how do you, when you're angry and you're trying to get past the anger, what are some ways you cope with the anger?
Well, first, I think you got to understand there's whatever you use, there has to be something that you can go to. But then you also got to understand, like, if your anger is more like an argument, like if it's dealing with somebody else is involved, then you could be pushed either by, like, mine was the lack of interaction, right? So that could have pushed you. Yours was mine was the over interaction by you. Like, hold on, take a step back. So that was still combustible points for us, because you want information, and I'm like, I don't really want to talk about this right now. We can talk about it later. So I say that to say, if I say one of my coping mechanisms is to breathe, take 3 breaths, I can take those 3 breaths. But if you're pounding me or hitting me at the same time I'm trying to take those 3 breaths, or I could be then kind of wind down, but then it bulls back up when you kind of dagger, not putting it on you or anything, but I'm just going through the instance. But ultimately, this time around, outside of the 3 breaths that I normally kind of do, or like can be more than 3 breaths, whatever, just to bring my energy down, or kind of bring my heart rate down, get back in tune with my body is the reason why I kind of breathe and just kind of give thoughts, maybe say a prayer during that time, depending on what the situation is. But ultimately, this time was kind of more worship music I leaned on to kind of get me through, because it was like really like I was upset and frustrated that I was upset and frustrated.
Yeah.
And that I had upset you, obviously probably upset the girls too or whatnot. And I just talked about it. So I was actually extra mad at myself, because I literally just talked about it Sunday. And then I got angry on like Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I couldn't put anything into practice that I preached about. So, it's like not necessarily like overly hypocritical, but it was
Oh
like
no, I mean
hypocritical. It's life, right? You
it's
live life.
life.
You're not
Yeah,
not perfect, right?
nobody's
So
perfect.
yeah, but listen to music. My song I listened to was "Holy Essence" by Sunday, but it doesn't spell it like a regular Sunday. I think it's like sun and then day, DAE.
So sun like SON.
Son, yeah, SONDAE. I think that's how you spell it. I have to look at it. But yeah, Holiness by Sunday.
We could put it in the
was
description
what I was
too if
looking
people
at.
are interested.
It's SONDAE and it's Holy Essence.
Holy Essence. Yeah.
Holy Essence. Yeah.
I think for me, I am not a typical crier.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm angry and I'm trying to cope with that anger and calm down if I start crying. And normally you'll never see me cry. Like I'll go somewhere else and cry. So yeah, that I had to cry. And then I listen to music too. So it's a song called Teach Me by Lee Vasi. I think that's her name. She's an Atlanta-based Christian R&B artist. And the song is just talking about, it's basically a plea to God, asking her to teach her how to love this man that he sent to her. And I kind of felt her in that moment. And it's so funny because I was just scrolling on TikTok and I know the algorithm was picking up like Christian hip hop songs a lot, but this time, this song came across and it was like exactly what I need to hear in that moment. It's like, okay, I know we're not perfect. Just teach me what I need to know. Cause I know that you have these, like you get tired and you get stiff if you're in the car in a long time, but I'm working all day and there's things going on. Like I didn't stop to think that you were probably hurting. And I know I need to do a better job, like trying to be more attuned to that. But then also you gotta tell me.
I don't
like I can try.
Lot,
I'm gonna try, but you also next time you just gotta let me know, because then I would have been like, it's fine. Like just it's okay to stay at home and we could just meet up with you after the game. So, so mine was music too. That and I'll listen to worship music. I'll listen to like old school 90s, 2000s gospel music that I used to listen to growing up. The very nostalgic music that, I don't know, it just makes you feel good and helps bring a little bit of clarity and kind of calms your mind and brings a little bit of peace in the situation. So that's probably that's kind of how I cope.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what else? What else would you like to leave this podcast with? What's the main takeaway?
I think the main takeaway is that, life's short. You got to pick and choose your battles. You got to be honest with how you're feeling, and get the minors right. Don't
major in the minors.
Don't major in the minors is the way they put it. But what I mean by get the minors right, I mean like do the minor things right. Like don't major in the minors, like kind of dealing, but you have to get to that micro level when it comes to you and how you make somebody feel. Because if not, then you're always going to continue to repeat the same stuff over and over. It's patterns, habit, right? Get frustrated. This is how you deal with your frustration, right? So being able to figure out where that anger is coming from, get to the root of it, and deal with that is the best way.
Right.
And the thing that I learned, obviously we've been married 18 years, so there's a lot of different stuff, a lot of different reasons things come up. So yeah, just don't major in the minors and then kind of get to the root of the issue.
Yeah.
Pray about it. Seek God's guidance.
Oh my gosh, Kylo, he's over here. Sorry, y'all. I think for me it's just making sure and just remembering that being angry is okay. Like it's okay to feel anger. It's okay. He's fine. It's okay to feel that emotion. But just also, while it's okay to be angry, it is not okay to sin in that anger. So just remembering that when you're feeling the anger, try to cope with it. Do your best not to sin. I think that's what most of us have to work on, is making sure that our anger, the valid emotion of being angry, doesn't turn into sin to where we're being displeasing to God. and just doing our best to make sure that doesn't happen. So yeah, so I think this was a good conversation. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'd love to know from you all, what are some ways that you cope with your anger when you get angry? We're always looking for new things, and I'd be interested to hear how you cope with it in a healthy way. We want to make sure it's healthy and not simple. So definitely leave a comment. Let us know in the description bar. If you are on a podcast medium, please leave a review and let us know, even in the reviews, how you deal with that anger and how what you've taken from this episode today. So yeah, this was fun. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, we will see you later. Bye.